worked pretty good. He turned the lights down and you guys all immediately went quiet. So I'm Lynn and Nino, organizing these tripod slide shows for you, image shows. The bathrooms, there's one through that door, and there's one downstairs. And these shows are recorded on YouTube. So in about a week after this, you can take a look and see if you did all right in your presentation. Or you'll say, are you kidding? I'm never going to see myself on film. It's too terrible, if you're like me. So our first presenter is Chelsea O'Sullivan. She's a Pacific Northwest muralist, illustrator, and community-centered designer with more than a decade of experience creating large-scale public artwork across Washington state. Since 2011, she has contributed to many community art projects through partnerships with the Tacoma Murals Project, youth-serving organizations, public schools, nonprofit, and local businesses. Chelsea's murals are known for their bold color, positive energy, and storytelling. Her process consistently centers collaboration, working with students, educators, and community members to develop themes that reflect shared values, celebrate local culture, and create a sense of belonging. Her portfolio includes murals in UW Tacoma YMCA, community centers, libraries, corporate offices, and public-facing sites throughout the Puget Sound region. Recent work includes a mural installation for the Safeway Albertsons Division office in Bellevue, where she was commissioned to design and install a large-scale piece celebrating creativity, teamwork, and connection. In addition to her mural work, Chelsea is a multidisciplinary artist, graphic designer, and illustrator, as you will see when you see her show. I've seen just a tiny bit of it, and it's pretty amazing. She works regularly with youth coalitions and prevention networks, helping young people express their voices through art, storytelling, and community engagement. Chelsea believes in the power of murals to transform spaces, spark conversation, and uplift the stories of the people who inhabit them. She is excited to bring her experience, creative vision, and collaborative approach to future mural projects throughout the Pacific Northwest. Chelsea?
Thank you for that introduction. That was quite nice. I wanted to start with the piece, or the wall, that started it all. This was 2010. I was working at the Crown Bar on 6th Avenue in Tacoma. The owners at the time, they knew that I liked to paint, and they had just bought the building, and one side of the building was not great. They asked me if I wanted to paint a mural, and at the time I had no idea how to paint a mural, and so of course I said yes. And so it was actually around this time of year, it was the middle of winter. I loaded up a bunch of paint, tarps, lights. I brought a heater, and I was sitting on these paint buckets in the rain, trying to figure it out kind of as I went. I was literally watching the paint dry on the wall and trying to figure out, like, how can I make this dry faster? And as you can imagine, it got a little bit of attention. Lucky for me, a photographer regular at the bar that I worked at was walking by, and he documented the process. And he asked me, what do you know about the Tacoma art scene? And I said, absolutely nothing. He said, you should sign up for the Artlist server, because I actually just saw a call to artists. They're starting a project, and they're asking for people that want to learn how to make murals. And so that brought me to these crazy characters, and what would become the Tacoma Murals Project. In this, teaching artists Rachel Dotson, Chris Sharp, and Jeremy Gregory brought each of their unique experiences for mural making to a group of us that were learning how to work and collaborate with other artists. We learned how to enlarge our pieces and work on a grid, how to use certain materials, and then how to collaborate with the community. And we actually got some real work experience on the Bergeson Terrace mural, where I was more or less a laborer, just kind of learning like how to work together as a group. And from this experience, I was offered a position with the Tacoma Murals Project as an assistant painter. And each of those lead artists got a site the following year in the city of Tacoma to execute, and they got to choose who got to help them paint from completing the apprenticeship program. And lucky for me, I got added to a lot of their projects. This piece is in the Dome District on L Street. This piece was co-led by Jeremy Gregory and Rachel Dodson. In our initial collaborative session, we met at Alfred's Cafe at the bottom of the hill, and we drew a lot of inspiration from a community garden that was in the area. And then we loaded up Rachel's van with a paint sprayer, a generator, a bunch of paint, and we drove down the 3200 block of L Street, just covering sections of the wall, putting our base coat down. And if I were to drive by this mural again, I could point out to you the exact butterflies and snails and mushrooms and dragonflies that I painted, because at the time when you're new, these little details are everything. This is a piece that we worked on in the brewery district. You can see how we put our grid. We actually snapped lines 1 foot by 1 foot on the bottom part, and then we dotted out our top grid. We worked a lot how illustrators work, where we laid out our outline in a cyan color, and then we color blocked, and we did a final pass for detail. And I love this piece because from a distance, it draws you in with the color, but as you get closer, there's a ton of Easter egg details that you get to pick up on. And we worked with a bunch of different artists and a lot of different styles. And this was probably my first time driving some heavy machinery that we almost tipped over on this site, so that was terrifying. So after the Dome District murals, I was confident in my ability to scale my work and get it up on a wall, but what I didn't have experience with was working with a community group that wanted to have a lot of involvement on the mural and direction of the mural. That can be really challenging for artists because you want to make sure that you're representing everybody on the project and representing everyone's input, but you also want to protect the integrity of the piece. This piece was actually led by Joni, who's in the audience today. I'm super excited to see her, but it's on the east side of Tacoma, and it took someone coming in, Amy McBride at the time, to navigate a tough conversation with the community group and the group of artists and say, you know, we have a common goal here. We all want to see a mural. How are we going to get there together? And in that moment of support, it completely shifted the project, and we were able to come up with a piece that the community still celebrates to this day. It turned out awesome, and it was one of my favorite pieces to work on. My mom still visits this piece when she comes into Tacoma. So on the East Side mural, I learned a lot about patience and collaboration and communication. The ceramics mural represented a totally different energy shift. I got the pleasure of working with the organizers from Fab 5, Kenji Stoll and Chris Jordan, and this is where I learned how to spray paint. So it unlocked a new technique for me, and it meant that I didn't necessarily have to have a water source or a power source to cover a huge amount of area, and I could get this vibrant color and incredible detail. And it was also a space where there was a technology shift. Kenji and Chris were super familiar with the Adobe platforms. And so after our initial collaboration sessions, coming up with sketches, they scanned in all of our drawings, and they were able to render a line drawing that they put on a grid and then superimposed on the building. So we were able to get our community group super excited about the project and see a little bit more of a high fidelity version of what to expect. And that energy just carried over into the rest of the project. And looking at this picture, I can't even see my full face right now, but I know that I'm smiling from ear to ear. It just unlocked this passion, and I was ready to quit all my other jobs and just launch into I'm gonna be a full-time mural artist. I got this, sign me up. The shift with technology opened a new way to communicate, and then a technique shift in just the coverage and the way I could paint, I was hooked. After that, I had an opportunity with a Spaceworks program. This was a temporary piece that I had a stipend for, but I also had a lot of leftover materials from the last mural. So I was able to cover a large amount of space. And I wanted to note this one because it wasn't a huge project and it was only up for a certain amount of time, but it did get the attention of someone that would give me a future job. And so at this point in my career, it was super important for me to be saying yes to a lot of projects because it unlocked a lot of new opportunities. This is my super high fidelity sketch that I pitched to Gabriel Brown at the time of my idea. But basically I wanted to take this character that was like turning a wheel of these pipes that were taking water, and then the water was going to turn into these colorful blossoms that would just explode all the way down 11th Street. And I got to bring a lot of friends in to work on this piece too, so that was another fun part about it. But we covered a huge amount of space in a short amount of time, and this project here caught the eye of what would turn into the Longshore mural for me, which would be about a year in the future from this point. So this piece is my first major lead project with the Tacoma Murals project. This is on the back of the Buddhist Temple on Fawcett in between 17th and 18th. It was really important for me at the time to take this on as a solo project. I just wanted to be able to paint something super huge, like on my own, and I was so excited about it. This was my initial sketch that I passed to the community group that I was working with, and they politely passed it back to me for revision. This is what I came back with, and I was able to sell them on this idea of these two characters that would be in this whimsical scene. One of them was going to be lighting these lotus blossoms, and then the octopus was going to be carrying them into the rest of the scene and lighting the cherry blossom tree, and the blossoms would be kind of floating across the building. I was so excited when they said yes to this that I showed up to the site before my equipment did. And you could tell because I could only reach so far on the building with the extension that I had. I was driving my car like every so often a couple of feet and standing on top of it and rollering out as far as I could get up the wall because I was so ready to get going. And then I dotted out my grid just for perspective. I started outlining my octopus. I was super excited. And kind of placing where these lotus blossoms were going to go. And then I remember this intense, like, imposter syndrome starting to come over me where I was like, why? Why did I get this project? Why did they sign up with me? Like, do I even know how to paint? I don't know. So in that, though, I had a technique shift where I realized that I really liked laying down my dark colors first and then laying over my brighter colors and lighter colors and almost cutting into that and using the dark colors to work as, like, an outline for the piece. And in that repetition of trying new things and seeing how the paint was working, it kind of brought a more of a confident feeling about it. And I remember feeling super happy when I started getting my octopus laid out because people were stopping and they were asking questions and taking selfies with it. And I was like, okay, I do know how to paint. This is going to be fine. And I remember feeling really confident when I started getting this lit effect with the candle lotuses that I was imagining. And same thing, people were stopping and complimenting, and I was like, yes, I got this. And then I remember feeling intense doom because I could not get the perspective correct in my mind on the face of this character. And I remember being on top of this ladder and just leaning back over and over again thinking, oh, she has a mustache, I don't want this. Like, how do I get it off of her? What's going to happen? But I kept going, and I actually got an equipment swap out where I could get up there a little bit easier with a boom lift. And I kept layering the paint and switching to other parts of the wall so I could feel good again. And I just kept going and working through it, and I ended up with a super vibrant piece that I was really proud of. And I actually, year after year, still visit this piece, and I feel like she ages quite well. If there's anything that I've learned with mural making, it's that no two projects are going to be asking the same thing from you. Sometimes they're asking for communication and patience and collaboration, and then some projects are going to completely upend your process and turn you on your head, and that's what the Longshore piece did for me. Instead of painting directly on the wall, I was painting on these panels, and I was fortunate enough to have a friend, Taylor Woodruff, who owns Grit City Grindhouse, offer his warehouse space, and then I had a couple more friends come and build this giant easel so I could put the panels side by side and work out some of the perspective and color blocking. It was dark and also in winter. I don't know why I take on these big projects in winter, but it seems to be a common theme. But I worked out some of the details, and then I ended up having the panels installed onto the wall space. And then in an active construction zone, I finished my final passes and ended with a piece that the Longshore Hall was pretty proud of. This piece was a commission from the city of Tacoma that they actually had installed on a bunch of traffic box wraps. Throughout the city, there's like 5 different sites that it pops up on. And so from the Longshore mural, I learned about adapting my process. The Larchmont mural represented a shift for me in being able to share a space with someone. I co-led this mural with Janice Warren, and we both took on the overall design, but it was a spot where I had to learn how to make 2 different styles live together. And this was actually the first mural that I had got to bring on an assistant painter, so it represented being able to teach my process to someone else. And you can see here more of like a graphic style living with a painterly style, and I feel like our overall outcome came out pretty successful. It's in an intersection on 84th, so it takes up about 8 walls space and an entire intersection. It was interesting coming up with design solutions around it, but we ended with good feelings on it. And just on a personal note, my mom took this photo here. She always takes my favorite photos of me at mural sites. I just wanted to say how important it is for you to incorporate the people that love you into your art process and your spaces where you're creating, because I feel like, well, one, you're never gonna get a good picture of yourself if you don't. You'll just have awkward selfies like posing by your work. And 2, they can literally feel the joy that you get from making this work. So I encourage anybody that makes art to share with people that love you. I actually wanted to end with this piece because it represents the intersection of where I was and where I was going. Right after I finished this mural, I went back to school for design, and that wasn't to leave murals behind, but to reimagine how I could exist completely in a creative space. I was supplementing my income working part-time at bars and restaurants, and then in between big paint projects, just trying to work it all out. And I made a shift and decided that I wanted to live like completely in creative space. And I also find it pretty fascinating to figure out how a physical piece of artwork could live in a digital world. It seems like I've been getting more and more requests for digital work in general. So for me, murals represent connection. Connection between people, spaces, and potential. And so I wanted to end with a quick video of how my physical art and digital art kind of live together and where I'm going with it. Can I do it, or do you do it? That one is at Jasmine Mongolian Grill in Federal Way.
So I was wondering, how big are your drafts, your original pieces, before you enlarge them?
It kind of depends. Lately, I've been working on, I often have work that's printed on vinyl and then installed at sites. So when I work like that, I work on 1 inch to whatever a foot is. So if the wall is like 56 feet long, I would work on a 56-inch wide drawing or painting. And then I work at like 600 DPI so that you can enlarge it and have it installed. Yeah.
Is there another question?
You said at first, when you moved here, or when you met the first fellow, you hadn't met anybody in the art world. I'm just wondering, have you met anybody yet?
I've met a couple people by now, yeah.
Nice work. When you were showing us this progression, it was interesting to see how many times you did the layers of the underbelly
Yes.
of each of the fish, and I was like, well, I don't know if I like that.
Exactly.
Coming
yeah.
back, that's what it's like. Yeah.
It's crazy watching the time-lapse pieces back because you'll see a lot of editing happening on the wall, and I don't realize how many times I go over and revise until you see it in like a really quick form. But yeah, I do a lot of editing on the wall. This piece I finished right before I went back to school in 2018.
What are you working on now?
So I just recently finished a mural installation at the Safeway Albertsons division in Bellevue. But right now I'm in the middle of working on a teaching project with Kitsap County and a youth group. They're choosing a site, and then I'm going to lead about 10 high school students on how to execute their first mural. And we're going to get that done in between March and the beginning of June. So it'll be my first time working with like a large student group, and I'll probably be calling you for some pointers.
Any more questions?
I was noticing that you were using heavy equipment to get up high. Is that something that they teach you through the training program, or is that someone taking you under wing?
A little bit of neither, actually. So when the first time that I had any kind of impression that I was going to get training on this was when I was a painting assistant, and I showed up and the lead artist had experience driving a boom lift, and that was on the Brewery District mural. But when I worked on the Buddhist Temple mural, do you guys know where Berg Scaffolding is? They literally dropped off a boom lift and were like, bye, sign for this. And I just was YouTubing at first, like, I'm not qualified. It probably added a bit to my imposter syndrome at the time, for sure. But you figure it out, and then you get really, I could parallel park one now. I'm like super good.
Any more questions? Thanks a lot. Shelly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making donations tonight. That's how we pay the rent and how we pay our tech, Erik, who manages to get these shows into the projector somehow each time. So next is Charan Sachar, whose work reflects his passion for the fiber arts like knitting, spinning, weaving, quilting, and he uses it as an inspiration for his clay work. He strives to give life to clay, decorating to represent his love for fiber, keeping functionality and uniqueness in mind. In 2014, Charan took up knitting as a hobby, and very soon the knit patterns started making an appearance in his clay work. Very soon, he purchased a floor loom and a spinning wheel. Now he obsesses over dyeing fabric and is fascinated about color mixing and different spinning techniques which change the appearance of the final yarn. The transformation of fiber to yarn and yarn to fabric inspires him further regarding the textures and colors in his pottery. In recent years, Charan started working on art quilts expressing his voice on a larger scale, using a mix of repurposed fabrics and also fabrics that he dyes himself. His art quilts have appeared in QuiltCon, the International Quilt Show, Mid-Atlantic Quilt Show, and Pacific International Quilt Show. His story and work have been featured in the New York Times, HGTV, several clay and fiber magazines such as Pottery Making Illustrated, Vogue, Naro, Ply Magazine, Tiny Fiber Studio, etc. You can follow him at Charan Sachar on Instagram and on his website creativewithclay.com. So maybe he'll repeat those and you'll be able to write them down. Charan?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Do I just go? That's not me. No. I don't know. There it is. There I am. So yes, thank you, Lynn, again for the introduction. I'm going to go through a little bit of my journey as to why I've landed up where I've landed up now and how I started. I was actually born in Kuwait, and my parents had moved there when they got married, and we grew up there, and it was very different. We were living in a foreign country, but we were living in a tiny India within a country like Kuwait. But since we were always indoors, I love working with my hands, and I always wanted to try something. And it's only during the Gulf War that we came back to India, and then I wanted to pursue clay. But clay was really in the outskirts of the city. We were in the big city like Mumbai, and you just kind of didn't go there to do anything with clay. Now, because I couldn't work with clay, I figured I need to work with heat and make something with my hands. So I took up baking. There were not many bakeries around, and there were like one or two bakeries which made few kinds of cakes, but I wanted to get something unique. So I made cricket fields and merry-go-rounds and that 101 Dalmatian cake in which I sculpted each and every Dalmatian. And the kid who wanted to place the order said that she could count up to 101 and wanted to make sure there were 101 Dalmatians. And that was actually my very first paying gig, for which I got $10 for that cake. It took me 3 months to make. And then finally, I did get my hands on some clay. I got like 5 pounds of clay, and I used and reused that clay several times. I didn't have access to a kiln, so I couldn't fire it, but I kept sculpting with it and destroying it and making things. But this is the final finished piece I created. It's around 2 feet by 2 feet. It's not fired. All the pieces, once they were air dried, they were just glued on to a piece of plywood. And I wanted some texture in the background, so I just put pencil shavings there. And then I spray painted it. My name signed is Vicky because that's what people call me at home. So that's why it's not signed with my actual name, Charan. And this piece still actually lives in Dallas at my parents' home. So we just helped them move recently, and it's still there. So I came to the US to do my master's. I had no intention actually of doing my master's. I was doing very good in school, and like a good Indian child, they're like, oh, you need to pursue studies, and you need to do your master's. And I'm like, no, I want to learn how to cook. So I tried to convince my parents, but wasn't very successful. So I came to the US to do my master's in computer science. While I did that, I graduated, got a job, moved to Washington, and took my first pottery class here, because now I was independent, working for myself. I could do whatever I wanted on the weekends. So these are a few of my first pieces. Anne Mearsman there is one of the people I met when I moved to Washington, and I can't believe we still know each other and talk to each other. But yeah, these pieces were made during that time. I love movement, I love shape, I like color, I like texture, and I found clay to be an amazing medium to represent all that with. My other inspiration was fabric. And my mom, she used to run a boutique in India, and her side of the family, they ran boutiques and they made clothes for brides and bridesmaids. So I have always been around fabric while I was in India, but I never did anything with it. I was just fascinated by it. And using that as inspiration, and weddings, Indian weddings are big, and I'm sure people out here might have seen some Bollywood movie at some point, and the amount of color and fabric and costume and dance that goes on in them. And so that's what I started representing in my work. That's a picture of my butter dishes and a picture of my brother's wedding actually there. And I later realized that my butter dishes looked like they were dressed like all my cousins on that stage. So I'm like, yeah. Then when you go to India, you go to the markets, the beautiful bags and everything, they have the embroidery. I wanted all the time to, represent that in some way. And the technique I use in this is slip decoration, where all the designs are done freehand, just like doing icing on a cake. And while I was explaining this to somebody at one of my shows, I couldn't explain it. I just kept saying, you put slip in a cone and then you put it on. And then she says, oh, like icing a cake. I'm like, yeah, I used to do that, like way back then, but I never made the connection that I got the skills for that while I was decorating cakes back then. I also look for interesting forms to make. Rather than just getting inspiration for my surfaces from fabric, I also like my forms to look like they were made of fabric. So I like pillow forms. You can see a wall clock, a bowl, those boxes, and in the top right corner, those are actually pairs of salt pepper shakers. A lot of inspiration comes from henna designs. Being in India, going to these weddings, this is something you just see, but it also then translates into my work. Again, all of these are done freehand, and I just enjoyed playing with color. And now I could, people were not eating up my cake and calling it done. Now they could actually use my pieces over and over again. And in all these years, the one thing which never changed was the engineer in me. I could never get rid of that guy. It's like even when somebody said, we want big cookie jars, which could hold a cookie this big, I always had to make a chart of how big clay shrinkage, what size circumference the top and the bottom need to be, and everything. And that's how I planned my work, so you could never get the engineer out of me whenever I made pottery as well. And while I was doing this, I was still working all the way up till 2011 at my software job at Intel. And in 2011 is when I quit that and decided to go with my pottery full time, because at that time I was being asked by galleries to sell my work and I wanted to do more shows. The economy wasn't doing great, but I said, oh, what the hell, let's just try this out for a while and see what happens. And right when I did that, the New York Times thought that was a pretty stupid thing to do, so they said, we want to do a feature on you. So I said, fine, do that. And yeah, I've been featured on Home and Garden television. There is a video still out there on YouTube where I'm jumping out of multiple doors and making teapots. My 5 minutes of fame there. These were shoes that I made, so I got more into sculptural work once I got this 100% focus on doing what I wanted to make. Rather than just doing functional work, I was like, okay, I can do some sculptural pieces. These are shoes actually from my wife's wedding, and you can see I had to rip one of them off because I needed to figure out templates, and then constructed those shoes, made them in color, and she gave me those shoes only on one condition, that I make a bag, because she didn't have a matching bag with her shoes. So the other inspiration from me comes from the Bollywood movies, like I was talking about, but it was the costumes. And up till now, I didn't have a way to represent the costumes as costumes. And that's when I got into more sculptural work. I used to call them my dancing divas. In fact, they're still my dancing divas. And I used to make around, I started making them around 2012, and I used to make around 10 to 12 every year. But every one of them used to be unique. Different clothes, different fabrics, different embroidery designs. They kept getting more complex, sometimes with jackets on and flowing skirts, but they are all 100% ceramic pieces hanging on the wall. And then they got more complex with jewelry pieces being added. And the last pair I made was 2 years back. It was for a commission for somebody who has 10 of them. They had been collecting them over the years. And as a wedding anniversary to each other, they wanted 2 ladies. Then I wanted to make clothes that actually fit somebody. So I went a bit larger in scale, but this was the limit of how big I could go, because my kiln is just that big. But this is almost like a life-size bust. And again, have to have matching shoes with it too. But all that work that's done on it is that same slip decoration work with embroidery. The one obsession which every potter has is to make mugs. And this is a sample of my mugs from that was probably 2008. Yeah, maybe from 2008 and progressing further. But you can see they have changed a lot. Most of my work is now hand-built. I don't throw on the wheel anymore, but I get seams in my work, but I like to highlight them with buttons, giving that same feeling of fabric again. So you get embroidery mugs with buttons on them, and it just keeps progressing from there. This was when, now 2 years into doing this full-time, I was like, okay, I made my hobby into my full-time job. I need another hobby now. And that's when my friend Anne again enabled me. She's in general my regular enabler, who's like, oh, you should take up knitting. And so I'm like, okay, fine. So I took up knitting. This is one of my patterns. So I took up knitting, and the first thing I do is I needed to write a pattern for something I wanted to make, because, so this is one of my patterns. Oh, that's a QR code. I should have removed that. But so as soon as I was making fabric, this was the first time I was making my fabric myself. The earlier embroidery stuff, I had never made anything, but this, I was making it, and I was like, no, this needs to be on my clay. So it took me almost 2 years to figure out how to get knit patterns on my clay, which actually look like hand knit stitches. And then from there started this journey of, creating pieces which geared more towards the knitting community, because up till now I was doing a lot of fine art shows, doing trade shows and selling work to galleries, but then I suddenly started focusing a lot towards fiber shows and people who go to fiber events. So yarn bowls, every person knows, oh, you do ceramics, do you make yarn bowls? Because everyone needs a yarn bowl if they are knitting. So again, with the knit stitches. Then because I was still knitting a lot and, weaving and doing all the other things, I started finding the lack of, oh, it's not the right colors, or it's not the things that I need. And that's when I started exploring dyeing yarn myself. And then with every technique of dyeing yarn, I figured, well, I could dye my mugs the same way. If I was making speckled yarns, then I could put speckles on my mugs. So almost every year it became a challenge now, like, okay, what new thing am I going to do now? When I started knitting lace, there was these very detailed lace mugs I introduced where you can actually see the tiny little stitches. And in like hand knit lace work, there are mistakes in this as well, for some people. Then I got into spinning, and then I was like, okay, I'm getting the colors in the yarn by dyeing, but when I dye the fiber and I spin, I can get so much different complexity of colors. And then that's a pair of socks I knit from my hand spun yarn. And then I said, okay, I need to make tiny stitches doing the stripe pattern, which happens in hand spun yarn, and that's how that progressed. And over the years, there have been like garter stitch mugs, mugs with yarn patterns, cable mugs, woven patterns, and many others. And this was me getting into deep dive into spinning now. I was like, okay, I still like the clay, I'm still doing the clay. I like the knitting, but every hand knit project I did, so the red yarn that you see there, that was my first hand spun, and that's the hat I'm still wearing. So it's been like around 10 years that, the hat has held, and it's my favorite hat to wear. And so I got into spinning, and during the pandemic is when I really started experimenting more and trying to make something different, because I started treating fiber like clay, and I wanted to sculpt with that fiber. And so I wanted to make these textured yarns. And during the pandemic, I started the artist residency with Tiny Fiber Studio, and they sent me this beautiful wheel. They are made in New Zealand, and it was really a mind-blowing opportunity to figure out how to make these textured yarns which have these spirals and baubles and just very dimensional pieces. So I was almost sculpting with fiber now, and again dyeing my fiber as well. I got more and more complex in it. There are different core spinning techniques and just adding more and more texture. And many people ask me, what do you use it for? I said, you can use it for anything, but then I had to use it for stuff too. This is another example of my thick and thin yarns. This is one of the classes. So I started teaching. That's what I started doing. Because once people started seeing that, oh, you can make these yarns, now can you teach us? So now all the fiber events where I was vending, in the last 3-4 years, I've started teaching as well. So I teach these classes. This is a boucle yarn, which almost looks like popcorn. And these are very big scaled yarns as well. They are not tiny, thin yarns. And again, it's all with different dyeing techniques. Then representing my yarn to look like the Bollywood costumes with all the glitter and glamour, put the sequins in and the buttons and the beads. So now I was decorating my yarn to look like the fabrics in India. So it somehow just keeps coming full circle again and again. I started then weaving because, I needed another hobby. I'm not going to pull up Anne's name again because, again, she said, hey, there's a loom on sale on Craigslist. Go buy it. So yeah, the loom came in, but this is the kind of weaving I like to do. It's Sauri style weaving where you just do what you feel. There are no rules to it. And then the weaving and the ceramics made a good introduction to each other. I'm still exploring this, but all these pieces did sell at the last festival I showed them. And it was a fun process to see how I could make them both work together. The yarns I'm also using in my knitting projects, so you can see the scale of the yarns. Like, the textured yarn, you don't need much of it, but I could still enhance the look of these simple knitted projects with these textured yarns. This is a shawl, which I just love the drape and everything you get with these yarns. That was a lot of fun to experiment with. And as I was doing that, and now I had turned my spinning into kind of a job because now I was teaching it. I needed another hobby. So I said, I'm going to learn how to quilt because, nobody wants to buy quilts, and it's just using pieces of fabric and sewing them together. Plus, I was learning to make masks during the pandemic, so I didn't know how to use my sewing machine. So I said, well, I'll learn to make a quilt first, then we'll make the mask. And this was one of my earlier quilts I made. I don't follow patterns. I sew how I feel like. They all lie flat. And I saw they were kind of representing my yarns in a way. So, and the woven piece of fabric that you saw earlier, this is using some of that woven piece of fabric and some recycled fabrics. Some of this is hand-dyed fabric, not by me. I had not started hand-dyeing fabric yet. But this is the first quilt I had made with my yarns and submitted it to QuiltCon, and it was the first one accepted as well. So I was like, okay, so maybe I'm going in some direction, which is interesting. This quilt is called Let's Make Music. And again, it's the style of, you start putting pieces together, throw them on the wall, and then again, the engineer comes in me where you have to engineer your order of sewing so that you can figure out what to seam first, what to seam second, so that you're not cutting through patterns and designs. This quilt is actually a very large quilt. It's almost 85 inches long, tall. This went to the International Quilt Museum. There is no blue without orange. Because the goal was, like, I always put a lot of color in my quilts, and somebody told me, well, make it all in blue. So I tried, but then I had to have some orange, and orange is my favorite color. So, this is using some of my hand-dyed, and actually around 90% of this is scrap fabric, which has been found in denim shirts and Goodwill stores, and I don't know where else. But I've started liking compositions and seeing how the fabric kind of relates and how I can put it together. This is one of my recent quilts as well. Again, you can see the hand-dyed fabrics making more of a comeback here. This was at the International Quilt Festival this year. And again, it's just playing with composition and color at a bigger scale. Because as I told you in my ceramics, I couldn't go above a certain size. Now I could go big, and I can fold it and keep it away. This is my most recent finish. This is going to QuiltCon this year. It's actually next month. It's going to be displayed there in Raleigh, North Carolina. And this was all inspired by the shapes of different handles that I had seen lying, on my mugs and teapots and all those pieces. So I picked out all those shapes, jumbled them up together, played with color, and this is almost 70% with my hand-dyed fabrics. So got more into hand-dyeing fabric to get the colors that I want. And now that I could go big, since I was quilting, my mugs are now quilted as well. So that's just natural progression in my case. But when talking about scale, this is where I'm headed to next. I have been working since last year on a mural at one of the light rail stations, the Sound Transit light rail stations in Kent. And this is going to be a 15-foot by 10-foot mural. And it's been very exciting to work with it because I had not worked in such big scale. I'm working with another artist, Sarah Kavaj, who is in Seattle. And it's gearing towards people with low vision. So we are working with students of Highline Community College. We have had several meetings over the last year with them, and they have provided amazing insight as to how they visualize artwork, how they read surfaces. And what I thought I would make some kind of abstract thing with textures for them to touch has changed into something completely different because they don't do abstract too well. They cannot understand it. So it's been quite a process. We are expected to have this done by mid-June this year. So majority of my effort is going in this, and from, hearing Chelsea's talk on murals and large scales. I'm just figuring out, like, how do I get my image this big, 15 feet by 10 feet? So it's been fun figuring all that out. But yeah, and this is where you can get in touch with me in case you didn't catch Lynn. So yeah, I'm done.
Questions? You are quite a tour de force. Next, you'll be making your furniture too, probably.
No, well, I should never say no. That's what I've learned. Yeah.
Really, I'm impressed. I had always only been aware of your pottery. I had no idea the scope of what you're doing. It's very impressive. So yes, we have some questions.
So when you have your mugs on quilts, you're how?
So that's what I usually work towards. It usually takes me around 3 to 4 months to figure out how to get these textures on my mugs. And with every kind of mug, the technique is different. Like for the knitted mugs, where people usually think I take a piece of sweater and stick it on it, it's not that. I actually hand carve the negative of the stitch pattern on my master slab, and I carve it in such a way that when I do press clay into it, it does look like knitting. And similarly with quilts, the quilt patterns that you saw, that was actually sculpting small blocks of different kinds of blocks like flying geese and log cabins and everything. And then when I'm making the mugs, I'm kind of placing them randomly in different compositions and then adding stitch patterns and everything to it. So every mug lands up being completely unique, just like my quilts. So.
Any other questions? Okay. Oops, wait a minute. We got another question.
It's not just a question, it's a comment. I had the good fortune to meet Charan in Federal Way a number of years ago when he was specializing in pottery, and he had mentioned that, he had a career in the tech industry, but he was working on his artistic side. And I've got to say, I don't move in a lot of fancy circles like a lot of people in this room, but he's the most amazing man that I have had the opportunity to watch, being a resident of the area, and I'm just absolutely, astounded, and I'm just so glad we had a group picture taken of this little group, and it's one that I show, all these people. It's like, you can meet somebody too, and you can follow them. Anyway, I can't wait to see what your next hobby is.
I'm so glad to see you. It's been so many years to see you in person again, and I'm so glad you could come.
Wait, let me give you this. When Erik records these on YouTube, they can't hear the questions unless you speak into the microphone.
What's your favorite baked good?
So my favorite baked good at that time was, of course, cakes, and I did like the challenge of making croissants. And just lately, I have finally got on board on the sourdough bandwagon. So I made my first loaf, and it came out really good. So I'm like, okay, need to explore that more. So we'll see. Maybe the bread goes somewhere at some point. I don't make assumptions. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we haven't had any of those specialized shows where I ask you to participate in a certain theme. And I don't have a theme in mind, but when I send you the invitation to these shows, you can hit reply and say, what about doing a show on what you've got in your freezer? Something like that. So that's where you take a picture of what you've got in your freezer, and we compile all those and show that at Tripod. I'm not saying that would be a theme, but you might think of something that we can do, because we haven't had one of those shows in a really long time. So a theme I have come up with myself lately is called Elderly Challenges Revealed. And I've been collecting pictures of people in the hospital, elderly people, and often they're wearing those yellow hospital socks. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that. So I want to do a show myself with that theme. So if you have any pictures of people in the hospital, elderly people, just shoot those my way. Well, elderly is where you can't really put your socks on anymore. You just can't reach down that far. That's just one example.
You need a model release for those?
Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm going to have a friend who's good on the computer to put little black things over the eyes of these pictures, so you won't be able to tell who it is. Sometimes it's me. So they might have to put a black thing over my hair too, something like that. Anyway, on to the next speaker. So next is Nori Kimura, a Tacoma Hilltop visual artist who creates original greeting cards as well as large murals. His subjects are inspired by loving and caring for families, communities, and nature. The focus of his art is to draw out the viewer's feelings of love, empathy, and joy through his simple yet humorous illustrations and wildlife photography. He has been promoting our city as a wonderful place to have family through his illustrations and photography, especially connecting people and nature. His promotion of caring towards the stunning nature around us is what he does. Nori?
Okay, hi, I'm Nori Kimura. So I typically do very simple drawings, not really complex. So this one is the kind of like a beginning, kind of how I started for the arts. This is the my wife and I expecting the baby. So this is creating the cards for basically just for personal reason for my wife or families. So that's that. And oh, that's not the one. Okay.
Can everybody hear Nori? Are you able to hear him?
Should I talk a little louder? Okay. All right. So, so basically, I like to draw something to get a smile from the audience. And this one is I got. I don't want to admit, but that monkey is me, and those two are the two of our children. And then this is must be a Mother's Day card. So this is you know, so draw these things to my wife. So I do this like a greeting things, you know, just for my family only. But then I get the encouragement of, you know, you should do this, you know, for the people. So I decided to kind of start to make the greeting cards so that I can kind of share. So this is one of the things. That's my son floating. I don't know what he's thinking, so I kind of decided to just, you know, chewing gum, bubble floating somewhere. So it's kind of have some idea, but I don't know what. But it's kind of fun to draw. And this one is the kind of promoting Tacoma. Everybody loves cat, so I said, oh, let's use a cat. And then I put all the significant Tacoma landmarks. And this is another one. This is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and there's a giant octopus there, so I decided, well, why not? I haven't seen anybody doing that, so that time I decided to do. And so those are the ones you can buy at the history museum or Pacific Northwest gift shop. And this is another example, three owls. So this one is designed for the kids, but also the adults. As you can see, the flavor of the box show the kind of like, maybe you could see as a beer, or it could be see as something else. So anyway. This is the 2015, there's a miniature golf course. Events happen, and so I apply it, and this is the one of the came up like a welcome to destiny. So that's the idea, and I got two of my wife's coworker helping me building those things. So this is kind of a site of playing miniature golf. Those are our kids. And that's my family with the Sasquatch. And this is the, I think in 2018, I got the mural project through the Spaceworks Tacoma. And this one is the advertising kiosk at the South 13th and Market Street, right behind the hotel. This used to be Japantown back then. So my idea was the one side as the Welcome Tacoma theme, and then the other side is kind of Festival of Japan. This one is the Children's Day, have the carp, koinobori there. And the kind of drawing is very simple, but it's more inclusive. And for that, that time I was teaching Japanese languages at the Tacoma Waldorf School, so I bring my students to help out painting. More like I like to have people participate on my drawing, so I kind of draw all the students from elementary school to high school to participate making the drawings or mural, and then I hope I want them to more connect to art with let's say I don't want them to kind of feel distance. So if you want to draw it, you can apply in the public, and you can do these things through the program. And so this is the kind of snapshot of the students and also helping out painting. So most of the mural I do, if I have an opportunity, if it's not from the city of Tacoma, and it doesn't have to restrict it, then I bring my students and they draw together. So I really enjoy the collaboration of, let's say, creating something. To me, it's more like I enjoy drawing, but it's also I enjoy watching them doing something with me. So more like I'm enjoying the experience together. So this is the illustration or drawing, kind of mixed media. So I use a color pencil, watercolor, and then markers. So this is about, let's say, 24 by 18, around that size. This one's designed for the Bryant Montessori School's yard sign. And the scene is the, exactly that in the garden. And I add the more natural creatures in it. So this is the sign, final look. And I did another sign. This one is deadline's quick, so I just draw, line drawing. So this is another sign. And then I had an idea, I want to have kind of, Tacoma Dome. It looks like a UFO, and Sasquatch around here, and I haven't seen anybody doing it. So before I do other artists do it, I better do it before. So that's kind of one idea. So I like this one, so I decided, space needles. So I got to do a space needle too. So Space Needle have two versions. This one have a Hammerman, the pig, and Sasquatch, but it didn't sell well, so I changed to a Sasquatch. Then, solve the problems. So there's another one, Smokey the Bear, but in Washington, feels more meaningful to have my version of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. This one is another one I had an idea. It's like, I want to have a letter with the building of the, Tacoma building. So some people can read it, but do you know what it say? Yeah, love Tacoma. So this one is also, I thought about it, then I thought I better do it before other artists do it. So most of the time I have when I have an idea and I want to do it, that's giving me the motivation to do. This one is another part of me that I like the kind of children's book type of drawing, kind of cute. That comfort me. So I do that. And this is, I put a lot of creatures everywhere so that I really like to find little things. I just like to draw little things. So this is something that, thank you. Something that, I like the people to find the kind of treasure hunt type. So this is kind of direction I like to do. And this one, I was approached by the Moshi Moshi Ramen bar. Unfortunately, it's closed, but I was asked to do fox and then make a pop art. So this is kind of come up with it. And this is the kind of with the lighting. And that's the size of it. So, and this one is I did with the students. It's SpaceWorks Tacoma project. I have this is the old toy store, Learning Sprouts. And so this is still there. And this is one of my students. It's commissioned. She liked the octopus, so I kind of decided to draw these things. This is another version. She also liked the octopus. So I do a lot of portrait for my students. Not necessarily people ask me because more like I want to, and they ask me. So this is the in front of the Kent Regional Library. This is the wrap around traffic boxes. So this have 3 boxes, and theme was sea creatures reading the book, and each surface have a story. So you go around and it kind of connects it. So it's a story start from the Wallace's mom reading a story to the two little kids go explore around the old oceans, talking to different creatures meeting. So this is the first book I did, children's book, and this is titled is A Walk in the Woods. And a friend of mine, Kurt Bigby, made a story, and then I did the illustrations. Those are all done by the color pencils. This is another SpaceWorks Tacoma, the temporary mural. So I decided to do all the dragons. And that's one of the mural I did. I thought it's a good idea to have somebody. People can take, stand in front of it and take a pictures. It's a very simple idea. And this is another one, Sleeping Dragon with a Baby. They are my former students, and they really like to do the mural, so I got the help from them. So this is another one I did. This is in Commerce Street, and this one have a this got defaced several times, so I probably painted about 6 times. So then I learned about the what will be more affected by vandalism or not. Okay, so this one is a small mural on the concrete, and this is a combination with this one. So this is a storm drain mural I did. This one is close to 27 feet by 7. No, 24 feet by 7. So this one is for the kind of greeting cards. I thought that time I really wanted to have promote the humpback whale or creatures in Point Defiance, Pacific Northwest. If you go there once in a while, you can see them. So I just wanted to have hey, you can find them in the real life in our water. So I used my students and all the creatures in the Pacific Northwest. And this is another version of kayaking. I did Spaceworks Tacoma again, the temporary mural. This is another one. So currently, if you go to the Pacific Avenue in between 9th and North side, you can see this. This is just the idea of false waterway floating away like a UFO. This is another version. This is the last year, November, I done. It's the koi pond in the sky. This is the sky bridge between the parking space building and then Pierce Transit Plaza, which is where the farmers market happens. So this is go over the Tacoma Street between 9th and 13th. So this was unique because it's about, let's say, 42 inches high, but it's 87 feet long, and I did the both sides. So idea was this time I only have that space, so I want to blend the concrete to whatever you see from the glass. So I just want to merge everything into it, so I didn't want to have like a stands out, so trying to melt everything in together. So what you see is color on the koi and also leaves, and then you can see the other color on the cities. Blue, in this case, blue, green, all that. So I want them to feel like, not separating. This is a mural, this is a scenery. It's more, I want everything's kind of blending together. So that was the idea. And then last year I got the second phase, which is I didn't expect it, which is put the digital art prints on the top of the glass. So basically kind of covering it, but it's clear, so there's a certain portion of it you can see through. And what I did is the extension of koi pond, so bring all the nature space in. So this is another one from inside. So it's a continuation, so all of them line up. And since I love photography and also wildlife, and so what I put there is all the creatures you can see around, around Tacoma. So again, I kind of hide it here and there, so kind of like a treasure hunt as well. But in this time, instead of melting everything, together, I just kind of like create the kind of portal that between commute and then work, I want them to have like a little transitional space that feel calm or nature. So kind of portal to kind of relax, feel the light, more greenery. When the sun hits, then it will give you a different shade. There's tree shapes there. In between, they have a clear space, so the lights come through. Idea is, so this is the other side. So if you have a chance, please go over there and kind of take a look and see what kind of creature you can find. And then this is, I was posing in front of it. When it's a rain, you have a little leak there, so you can see the water, which is a reflection. And it's pretty neat because you can see the koi fish reflecting in the water. So it's kind of nice as well. So I think that's about it.
Questions?
How'd you get started? How'd you get inspired by drawing? Was it childhood, or did you pick it up in your older
yes.
years?
I like drawing since when I was a kid, yes. Not really particularly anything, but.
I know the story behind your Ruth Grader. Thank you so much. Her getting defaced, but could you tell everyone here about the sting that the police put out to capture the culprits?
Oh, the sting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think I was painting at least 4 times, and then what they told me was they know who they are, and then so they decided to have a detective call me, and then they said the police will hide, so, and then they have to catch on the act. So what they did is hide, and then when they are doing the graffiti, then able to catch the person. But until then, yeah, I have to kind of repeat, and then they apologize because I'm sorry, but we have to catch on the act. So I'm sorry for your mural, but I also so many times painting. So I did the panel. I draw the both side. So once defaced, then I just unscrew it and then put it out. And I have one more at home, so just in case. So, you're welcome.
More questions?
Are either of your children interested in art?
I think my daughter likes, and I think she's more interested in photography, I think. But she said art studio as a possible major from psychology. I don't know.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There's a sign-up list on that table back there if you want to get invitations to these shows. So just write your email address really clearly. And then I want to tell you about the next show, which is February 20th. And it's another show focused on art of various types. So Kathy Ross is a tin artist, and she makes a lot of tin works in 3 dimensions. And she's so prolific, you cannot believe she sleeps at night. And she told me on the phone today she always sleeps in a tent outside. And I think she's 65 or 70 years old. So she's an amazing personality. And then Erik, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Furuheimer is a theater director who also organizes props and everything having to do with plays. And he did a play at Lakewood Playhouse this holiday season that I saw, and it was just super impressive, the inventive costumes they made out of empty basketballs and stuff like that. And then Odessa, who's married to James Hume. They have some property. Gosh, I forgot to look up the name of that town. It's in California. Jennifer, you know what it is. It's where Mars is going. Palm Springs, thank you. Odessa and James have an Airbnb, and he's an artist, and so is she, and they decorated every room. And she's going to do a show showing you that place. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. That's about it. Questions? Okay.